Well, hopefully the webinar is now live to all of you who are now joining us. It's great to have you this afternoon. So good afternoon and welcome. My name is Andy Campbell and I'm Commercial Director at Elevator. And I'm delighted to be your host for today's event. By way of background, Elevator is one of Scotland's leading business support organisations. In 2020, last year, which feels like an awful long time ago, but in 2020, we joined forces with STV as we both share the same commitment in supporting Scotland's SMEs, businesses and entrepreneurs. In January this year, STV welcomed our very own Chief Executive, Professor Gary McEwen, to take part in the STV Growth Academy to discuss building resilience going forward in 2021. An event which gained a huge amount of interest and really drove an awful lot of engagement for both ourselves at Elevator and also for STV. And that reach was really very wide across the country. And it was so successful that we decided to create and launch this new programme, the STV series, running over 3 sessions starting today. We'll also be running another session in May and June. And our 3 sessions will really help to bring together both Elevator's network and STV's network to create a bustling community, a vibrant community of businesses and entrepreneurs. The sessions will also act as a platform for individuals, companies, entrepreneurs, founders, those thinking of setting up in business to access greater support to scale or grow their company, shape their brands and build confidence as they move ahead in their entrepreneurial journey. So today we've got hopefully a really interesting session lined up for you all. We'll be shortly hearing from Danielle Kelly, who's Director of Strategy and Sales of STV Scotland. And I'll also be joined in chatting with 2 Growth Fund members. But before we do begin, we want this to be as interactive as possible. So we would encourage all of you, if you have questions, to raise your hand and let us know. There will be a formal Q&A session at the end. But if you do have any questions that pop up, please do let us know and we'll try and get to them throughout today's chat and conversation. As I say, there will be a formal Q&A towards the end. It is a webinar, so you should already be on mute. You should already be on with your cameras off. But if you do want to verbally ask a question, please do let our panelists know and we'll try and come to you as well. I think that's it, very much from the housekeeping point of view. And without further ado, what I'm going to now do is hand you over to Danielle Kelly, Director of Strategy and Director of Strategy and Sales at STV Scotland. So Danielle, over to you now.
Thanks, Andy, and afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and thank you for the invitation to Elevator to come along today. So I was asked to talk a little bit about what we do at STV, what support we can give businesses, what is the Growth Fund, and actually how do you access it. And I'm so thrilled to have Hayley and Louise, who are both Growth Fund members here today as well. And hopefully I won't talk for too long because what people are really interested in are the people who book the campaigns and, you know, do their marketing with us. So all that stands between you and them is a short presentation. So let me share that with you. We'll get that up on screen. So hopefully you should all now be able to see lovely Ant and Deck. Oh, there we go. So a little bit about us, what we do, what the Growth Fund is, and as I say, how you can access it. I just wanted to start with a little bit about our approach at STV in terms of marketing campaign planning. All the campaigns that we work with our clients on are completely bespoke. So we really try to understand what it is each business wants to achieve. And hopefully we'll hear that from our members today. We work with businesses in all different kinds of sectors. They have different target audiences, different marketing messages they want to convey. So for that reason, the campaigns are all very much based on those deliverables, really. And that's our starting point always, to understand what it is that campaign wants to achieve. And the way we do that, I feel that a couple of things, because we work with a all different parts of our business. We're very fortunate to have a fantastic consumer insights team and a strategy team at STV. We really go away and try to understand what are the consumer trends, what are we seeing in the marketplace, how can we inform marketing to give the best strategies possible. And I've pulled out a few things. We work with a research company called Scott Pulse, who have the biggest online panel size in Scotland now. And we do regular pieces of research with them to really inform what it is we can build into those campaigns so they work as hard as they possibly can for businesses. So I've pulled out a few things that have been coming through, and this is from research just done at the end of last year and just last month in February. So the first one, we've done a lot of work ourselves, and I'll come on to that, looking at sustainability, looking at green credentials, what that means for businesses. We've seen increased focus on that. We've got COP26 coming up later in the year in Scotland. So it's never been a better time to really understand what it means to be sustainable. So Scots are placing more importance on that in their purchasing decisions. So 75% of Scots care about a brand's environmental and social credentials. And you might think that's an odd thing for STV to be interested in, but actually the more insight we have on our audience, we have on Scottish consumers, the better we can advise our brands, because we know if that's something Scots care about, they'll be looking for that from brands marketing and messaging. So we can really put those two things together so the campaigns work really hard. Scots are excited to return to the shops, as restrictions continue to ease across, later this month and into next month. And this was some research just from February there. So 81% of Scots are likely to visit a physical store when they reopen. And in fact, 71% of women miss shopping in stores. For all adults, it was about 63%. So people are keen to get back out, hit the shops. And actually, there's loads more research behind all of these, but people see it, as a relaxing day out. It's that experience that they're missing, as well as the products. I think 81% of products they prefer to, try and hold in stores and things. So that's exciting for the stores reopening. And then we're looking at things like, what do people intend to do over the summer? We work with all different kinds of sectors. I've tried to pull out just a few things here to give you a snapshot. But whether it's food and drink, whether it's travel, retail, home improvements, we do a lot of research in different areas. But you can see there, Scots are planning summer holidays. So 7 in 10 would holiday in Scotland this year, just under half booking in the UK and 19% abroad. So it really allows us to inform our clients and our Growth Fund members with the best possible data to feed that into the campaigns. So that's just a little bit in terms of our approach and how we do kind of work to support businesses to really understand what's going to deliver and what's going to turn their marketing into customers ultimately is what everyone's interested in. And why does that matter to us? So obviously, it's great to have those strategies, but you've got to have the right consumers that you're targeting. So we're in the very privileged position to be the #1 peak time channel in Scotland, reaching 80% of Scots a month. We can drill that into different audiences as well. So looking at the sustainability audience that I'd mentioned, 83% of Scots who are interested in sustainability tune into STV every month. So you can look at it by different targeting demographics as well that we work with brands on. What are we doing at the moment? TV's experienced a fantastic year-on-year growth. So TV in general across the board is up 5%. STV is up 14%. So ahead of even the high trend, particularly for upmarket audiences are up 19% and up 50% for 35 to 55-year-olds. We look at lots of different trends in this space as well to inform campaign planning. So whether that's looking at daytime, where we've seen massive increases as people work from home, shows like This Morning, Loose Women, The Chase have all had phenomenal growth year on year, but actually, and probably interestingly for brands looking to target their products and services, a big increase in upmarket audiences, a big increase in those with disposable income, which obviously are attractive to different types of businesses. And 57% growth in STV Player this year. So more people watching more content more often. And we've really expanded our STV Player in the last 18 months to 2 years. There's tons of content on there, not only The Masked Singer, Coronation Street, all your favourites, but also STV Player exclusives that are not on STV channel, but you can get on Player. So box set drops like The Bridge and Broadchurch and Grace Point. So all these types of programmes are available on Player, even though they're not on STV. So it brings in different types of audiences, perhaps viewers who may be a bit lighter consumption or different types of markets you can get through your Player channels as well. So that's a little bit about us. You can see there, STV is phenomenally popular in Scotland, and we don't take that for granted, but across the top 10 commercial channels, you know, STV's peak time audience is bigger than all the other channels combined. And I think that chart probably puts it into context for a lot of people in terms of the scale of the reach that you can get with the channel. In terms of targeting, you can be really targeted. Oh, my graph has vanished. Imagine there's a beautiful graph of Scotland on there. I don't know what's happened to it. But you can target by region. And I think that's something we'll hear maybe from Hayley and Louise about, because that's really important for businesses. You know, you may be based in a particular area, you may be expanding and want to build up your marketing coverage, and STV allows you really to harness that. So we've got West, East, Aberdeen and Dundee are the different regions on air. On STV Player, you can sub-target again into a smaller region by gender, by demographic, by programming, and it really allows that flexibility in your marketing and really honing what's the right thing for you at that time. Growth Fund. So this is what everyone's interested in hearing about. So I'll tell you a little bit about what the Growth Fund is, how you can access it. We launched the fund in 2018. And really the idea behind the fund is supporting businesses a little bit earlier in their journey and giving them access to that power of STV marketing to help them grow a little bit sooner. So we work with all kinds of different businesses. Since the launch of the fund, we've done over 500 deals right across Scotland. And there's sort of three broad ways that businesses work with us. So match funding, which is pretty much what it says on the tin. So we will support the cash investment a business makes by topping up the campaign, so you reach more people and more services with a bigger campaign. Revenue share, where we work with businesses to really understand what is their model. We carry the cost up front, and then we take a percentage of the sales that results from that campaign. We tend to work with most people on a match funding basis. I would say probably about 95, 96% of our members work on a match funding basis. It's really simple, it's really fast. We get people on air very quickly. And then the final route is gifted memberships, where we work with partners such as Elevator, such as Scottish Edge and Business Women Scotland to recognise fantastic business achievements and talent across Scotland. So that's for sort of prize winners through entrepreneurial networks who receive gifted memberships to come on STV and really promote and grow through the access that marketing can give you. So we make it as easy as possible. Really, the approach is very simple. There's only two things you have to know: either be a Scottish registered business or work with a Scottish media agency. Beyond that, it's a case of just having a chat with one of the team. So you'll have a dedicated account manager, like any client we work with, and they'll work with you on some of those elements that I mentioned at the beginning to understand who you want to target, what periods are important to you, where you want to reach, and really to scope and build that campaign solution that works as hard as it possibly can. But everything is very much bespoke within the Growth Fund as well. In terms of effectiveness, so in terms of the results we've seen from members so far, over half of members have seen an increase in profit, which we're absolutely thrilled about, and 75% said it was a minimum of 20% increase. So really powerful figures in terms of the impact that being able to market sooner can have on business growth. And as I say, that's one of the things that certainly from my point of view that I'm kind of most proud of and delighted about, to really see businesses reap the benefits of their marketing. I've just included one case study because I said, I know everybody wants to hear from Hayley and Louise. But Cheeky Chompers are a brand that we worked with. We've done a few different campaigns with them now. And when I first started chatting to Julie about doing a campaign, she'd done some sort of multi-channel, some digital TV adverts before, and they hadn't really seen a massive impact from that. So what we did was we kind of looked at some insights, some research. They did have a TV ad, which our creative team had a look at, and we were able to make a few changes that you can see resulted in a big impact for them. So the first thing we did was really look at who they were targeting. And they'd done some research themselves that said, okay, we know that this is a target for mums, but actually quite a lot of the time it's grandparents that buy this product as a gift or as something, when they're watching the baby, as a really useful tool. So we knew that was an important market segment. The advert that they had was fantastic. It had really happy, smiley babies in it and really beautifully shot, but it had an English voiceover. And what we know worked really well in Scotland Scots are more likely to purchase a product if it's got a Scottish voiceover. There's tons and tons of research in this area, which I'm happy to share if anyone's interested afterwards. But Scottish voiceovers, you'll hear it all the time now that I've mentioned it, are actually used a lot on a whole range of ads, Scottish and nationally, because the Scottish accent is a very trusted voice. So a lot of businesses will choose to use a Scottish voiceover because it does have a sense of trust. But anyway, we changed the voiceover on Cheeky Chompers to be a Scottish voiceover. We ran their campaign targeting those kind of key programs like This Morning, Loose Women, The Chase, Coronation Street. And you can see there the impact that had for them. So sales increased by 1/3 after the partnership, and 41% of their total direct revenue for that period came from Scotland. 40% of transactions from Scotland, up almost 30%, and 56% of new users across the month were from Scotland, which was the area, obviously, that the campaign was running, even though they are a UK-wide brand. So really powerful, and that was over a 2-week period that they saw that happen. So it can happen really quickly. And for anyone who's thinking about TV or hasn't done it before, I would say one of the core strengths and main benefits is you can get those results quickly. You see that growth within a very short period because the reach, go back to that 80%, you reach so many people at once. Coronation Street, an average episode is maybe 650,000 Scots watching each episode. So you really are able to hone in on your market very, very quickly. So that was that. In terms of what we've got coming up, and I just wanted to mention a couple of other aspects of the fund, because we have done some extensions this year, because I'm chatting to clients and really understanding our membership. What do people want to see more of? What works? So we've actually extended the fund into Growth Fund Plus. And for the first time ever, you can now access our video on demand advertising on STV Player. So that's a really exciting one for us, to be able to give people the power of those additional box sets on Player, those additional light viewers, really targeting even more beyond the kind of regional targeting as well. So that's been a huge new launch for us. We've also launched the Green Fund, which again, we've been very excited about. And that's £1 million, which is open to SMEs with a green objective, product, message, to really reach and communicate that. Again, based on our research, we know that's what consumers want to see. So there's real opportunities there to encourage more businesses to either have a green focus or a sustainable aspect to their business. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a wind farm. That could be, you've got a more efficient way of planning your delivery routes, or actually you've changed, how you heat your offices. So it's all about how you convey that to Scots, because we know that matters to people. And finally, just today we're launching a gifted membership program where we're doing 4 £25,000 gifted airtime memberships for businesses who advocate inclusive growth within their business. So businesses can demonstrate a commitment to diversity and inclusion, whether that's founders from underrepresented groups, whether it's communicating that through your creative. And we've got a fantastic panel in place who will make those awards and select those final SMEs. As I say, that's just launched today, and there's more information on the Growth Fund website, but I'd really encourage any business who has that approach to get in touch, to fill out, got some details on the website, but basically note your interest, because we're really excited to convey that on air and make sure we've got that representation right across the board in the Growth Fund and our wider activities. So that's us in terms of what we do with the Growth Fund. Hopefully that's a little bit of insight, Andy. As I say, there's loads more on our Growth Fund website, and I'm sure, Hayley and Louise will tell you firsthand, their experiences, what they've learned, what worked, and, how they came to be involved, I suppose.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great. That's a very comprehensive and thorough overview for anyone that perhaps isn't aware of what you do and what services that you offer. I'm sure that you will have updated them. And clearly you talked about a number of new initiatives that you're launching daily. So this is not something that's standing still. You're absolutely looking to continue to develop the offering, Danielle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important for us to be able to respond to our members, respond to market conditions. We launched the fund with 5 million. We quickly doubled to 10. And then just last March, as obviously the pandemic became apparent, we doubled again to 20 million, because we really believe in the power of our product, the power of marketing to change businesses. And, You know, it almost seems like a bit cliche, but having spoken to so many businesses where it has been a really transformative experience, we really believe that that is something that can and will be a kind of backbone to Scottish business going forward. So anything we can do to support that, we want to keep evolving and keep having those conversations. We're always open to new ideas.
Yeah, and I think also as well with television advertising, that was, I guess, an area that was always seen as perhaps under risk from digital platforms, or that folk would be able to skip through TV. But the pandemic and the situation that we found ourselves in has actually seen perhaps even a more concentrated need for this type of platform for the companies, and the channel that you provide, the platform that you provide, clearly has grown very significantly over the last 12 months or so. So it's fantastic to see that it's delivering the results, and it's all about the results, really. It's all about what it does for the businesses that you engage with and who use your services. And
Absolutely.
And that leads us perfectly on to our two guests that are patiently waiting in our panel. So we're delighted to be joined today by Hayley Lilly, who is Retail Manager at Side, and Louise Stewart, who is Head of Entertainment, Exhibitions and Marketing at P&J Live. So Hayley and Louise, welcome to both of you.
Hi. Hello.
Great. So obviously we've got Danielle on the panel here as well, and we'll be digging into some questions in just a moment. And Danielle, please do feel free to ask your own questions or put any additional points in. And just a quick reminder to our audience who's tuning in to watch as well, if you do have any questions, you can either raise a hand or pop it in the Q&A chat box, and we'll try and get to that. As I say, there'll be a formal Q&A session, which we will open up at about 3:40 in about 20 minutes time. So do have your questions ready for our panel here today. So Hayley, if I could perhaps come to you first, and it'd be great if you could introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what your company does, and your particular role within the business. So over to you, Hayley.
Great. So I work for a company called STV. They manufacture windows and doors and install conservatories. They've been around for about 90 years. I have been here for the past 4 years. I was doing a marketing role before, and then I took over as retail manager. Now I oversee the whole of the retail department, managing all of the marketing and advertising. When I took over, they had a very different approach. They had a sort of, the same director had been here for 30 years, and his marketing approach was mostly sort of radio and newspapers. And then when I took over, I changed the whole marketing strategy and obviously went on to TV. So it's been very successful the last couple of years, and that's why I was happy to obviously come and speak about it. It's been, for Sidey, we've been a local company in Perth for such a long time. Everybody knew the brand, but we had opened a new showroom which was based in Edinburgh, and it's such a large market and nobody knew who we were. So for brand awareness and things, we decided to obviously try television, and I have to say now over the last 2 years the footfall in the showrooms increased, the sales have increased, so I put most of that down to TV, just because the brand awareness now, any sort of other advertising I do, people always say, well, we saw you on the TV, and I think they trust that, so that's been good for us.
Great, Hayley, and we'll dig into those results and some of the things that you've learned and discovered along the way. So thanks for that, Hayley. If I could come to yourself now, Louise, in terms of a wee bit about who you are, what your company does, and your particular role within the business.
Thanks, Andy. So yeah, I head up the entertainment, exhibitions and marketing side of things at P&J Live. I've been with the venue in Aberdeen for 20 years, but back in 2019, we left AECC and we launched P&J Live at the event complex Aberdeen. So for us, it was a real step change. You know, we upscaled the business hugely. It's a much bigger capacity, a lot more space to sell, a lot more business to generate, obviously to make the business work. And also we were launching a brand new website. Our social channels were all brand new, so we had left behind everything that we had of AECC in terms of marketing, and we jumped on P&J Live. So for us, we really needed something quick. We needed to get our followers, our subscribers, our audience engaged quickly, because we literally launched in September with Offshore Europe in 19, and then we were just running events thereafter. So for us, coming on board with STV and the Growth Fund has been hugely advantageous to us, and it's helped us get our numbers up, and it helps our reach hugely.
Oh, fantastic. Again, great to hear of those results. Hayley, if I can come back to you, and obviously you'd mentioned about the sort of legacy activity within the organisation, and then with yourself joining, taking a new approach. So could you tell me a little bit about how you actually found out about STV and the STV Growth Fund opportunities? Oh, Hayley, I'm afraid to say you are on mute.
There we go. Is that better? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect, Hayley.
Yeah, so we had always advertised on radio, Perth, Dundee, and also in Edinburgh when we opened there. And it just so happened that the sales rep who used to work for TFM had moved to STV, and I had quite a good relationship with her anyway. And she had come through, and we'd had a chat about when I'd taken over what I wanted to do. And she was amazing. So she did so much to sort of like help me go in which direction I wanted to, even with the sort of like the creative and things. And I have to say, since we started, like, we've come so far. I think now we're in a place where, like, if I compare the first advert to the one we've got now, it's just, they're worlds apart. But it's been so good because we've come from something that was just on radio where no one could visually see what the brand was, to now having a real, which I think is quite a strong brand, especially in Perth, Dundee and Edinburgh now. So yeah, I only came about it because obviously I knew somebody who had worked in radio and moved to TV, so that was it.
Yeah, no, that's great, and ultimately a very warm opportunity for sales, and it's good that you touched on the onboarding process, which I'm sure Danielle will be music to her ears about, hearing how it was easy and really accessible for you. And Louise, what about yourself in terms of how did you find out? Because I would imagine that television advertising, for some might seem like either a big step or a step that is out with their own particular reach as such. So how did you hear about it, and what were those first tentative steps like to approach it to see if it was right for you?
It's so true. I think television advertising to a lot of people sounds like it would be really expensive. I think that it feels to people like it's maybe out with their grasp. But Darren, who's my account manager, and we've known each other a long time, worked together quite a lot in the past. It was him that approached me and made the suggestion. But for us, I think, given the fact that we almost doubled our advertising, for us, we carve out a small budget for consumer advertising, because at the end of the day, if our events do well, then we do well, and that's really important to us. So Darren is always great at sort of ringing me up and telling me that we've got this opportunity. So for us, and we're so busy and we're using all different mediums, and we use lots of different types of marketing mediums across the way, because our audience is so broad. But there's no question that without chapping at the door, we probably wouldn't have known about being able to double the work that we have done. So that's been really great. Thanks to Darren for that.
Yeah, and again, Danielle, it's great to hear that your team are knocking it out the park in terms of their accessibility, and accessibility, I guess, is one of the kind of key things that I'm sure that you want to make sure that companies are aware of. Is there a preconception that television advertising is an expensive thing, and is that one of the key challenges and objections that you try and inform and provide more detail on?
Yeah, and I think massive thank you to Hayley and Louise for highlighting the team, because it's one of the things I would say I'm most proud of. Our team are so skilled, they're so experienced, they know their stuff inside out, but most importantly, they really care about the businesses they work with. So and I'm actually just off a team call earlier on where we were doing some different kind of planning ideas. And I can say genuinely that's the first thing people think about is how will this work for the business that I'm representing? And almost like if they don't believe it themselves, they're not going to take it to somebody, you know. And we do have instances where if we work with a brand and we think, do you know what, this isn't the right solution for you. We're not in the business of taking someone's money and running. We want to work with people for many years to come. And that's a real strength of the team. In terms of the price point, Andy, yeah, I think there is a misconception, you know, and that's one of the reasons for the fund, to be honest, to make it as accessible as possible. You know, one of probably the most frequently asked questions I get is round about price. You know, how much does it cost? And even though everything is bespoke, there are kind of benchmarks. So, you know, if you want to be on air in the west of Scotland, that's our biggest transmitter, you're maybe somewhere between 7 and 10k-ish. You want to be on in Edinburgh, it's a smaller transmitter. So in the east, you may be looking somewhere between 5 and 7. So it all comes down to how many people are going to see your advert, how long you're on for, what types of programming you're in. But what I would say is it is a very, very bespoke process. So if you come to us, there's something you want to do, we will build something for your budget, or we will say, do you know what, have a think about it, go away and maybe come back in 3 months with more budget, because actually that'll be more effective. Yeah. And we are pretty honest with people from that aspect, because we really want it to work. Yeah. You know, and I'm very, very fortunate to say, you know, I can probably count on one hand the number of businesses that I've been with STV since 2007 that I've worked with who genuinely haven't seen a result. You know, we're very, very fortunate in that, you know, we have a great team from our operations to our strategy team who really know how to build that effectiveness in. But that's the thing I say to my team all the time, you know, this has to work for people. So let's make sure that what we're proposing is the right solution every single time.
Absolutely. It's got to be based on the needs of the customer. What are they trying 100%. To gain? You know, what is their what are their objectives from actually taking out some television advertising? And I guess the beautiful thing about what you're offering now in terms of the STV Growth Fund and some of the other initiatives that you have there is that you're starting that relationship with that customer to be able to allow them to start to test, to develop, and really see the results. And ultimately, when they can see that the results are transforming their business, increasing sales, then that relationship can build and grow from them. But it all starts with the objectives, I guess, that they have in the first place. Hayley, if I can come back to you and you know, talk about those objectives that you had, and you mentioned obviously it was a warm introduction, so I guess to a certain degree you're prepared to take a little bit of a leap of faith. But what were the key things that you were really looking to drive from your STV advertising activity?
Well, I think our main thing was to start with a brand awareness in Edinburgh and then increase the footfall in the showroom, which had been open for about a year but was definitely on the quiet side. And they had tried, and when you go back to talk about price, when I took over, I've still got the same budget that I had 2 years ago. I've actually spent about £65,000 less on advertising, but I've increased sales by 80% over the last sort of 2 years. So that is how big a difference we've had from just going on STV as opposed to the other forms of advertising. But our main sort of focus was Edinburgh. We did the advertising in Perth and Dundee as well, but we always had quite a large footfall in those showrooms anyway. So it was more to sort of push Edinburgh. But then Edinburgh now is at a point where we were hoping it would get to where it was quite busy, and Perth and Dundee are the same. So now we're going to look to go to Aberdeen. So that's our next.
Well, that's great. And you know, clearly there's a degree of target, there's a degree of focus where you can, you know, pick a particular region that you're looking to increase footfall and increase sales, and it's great that STV are able to offer, as we've heard, that flexibility and that targeted approach to what they deliver. Louise, in terms of your own organisation, you know, some of the objectives, some of the areas that you were looking to see improvement, was it just bottom line, or was it things like increased awareness and footfall through your various different events?
I think for us, the key objective for us when we do use STV in the way that we do is generally to sell tickets, and which for us, obviously, the knock-on effect is bottom line. But I think it's really important that with that, we also increased awareness, you know, quite considerably. For us, it's so important to sell tickets. If we don't sell tickets for shows, then the promoter won't bring us the next show. So that's literally, you know, and we can see that it works so well. You know, as soon as the adverts start on television, we see spikes, and our promoters will say, you know, what are you doing? Why have we seen the spike? And it's always the same. I just wish we could do it every day. Unfortunately, budget doesn't always allow, but equally they have their own objectives. So if they come to us and say, you know, we really need to up sales for this, or we've got a promotion, or if it's a Disney on Ice or whatever it might be, something like STVs, you know, we can push that to them as well. So, you know, we can suggest that, and generally speaking, everyone's pretty keen to get on board with it because they know that it works. But yeah, awareness, subscribers to the database has been a big one for us. We've never had, you know, so many subscribers since we moved over, and I think that's really helped.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you mentioned there, the advertisement comes out on television. Before you know it, you can see the spike happening in terms of the click-throughs and the sales. And I suppose that, you know, television advertising does come with a degree of credibility. You know, I guess we're all exposed to advertising everywhere and anywhere we are right now. If you're on social media, you're always aware that there's advertising feeds there. If you even go onto Google and just carry out a search, advertising will appear at the top to try and lure you in with a click and a purchase. But when something's kind of on the telly, it seems to have a little bit more credibility, and you think, actually, it must be a trusted brand. It must have gone through various bits of criteria to actually be accepted for television advertising. So as a customer, if I'm looking to spend my money, which is what I guess you're hoping people will do, there's a degree of confidence that I guess goes along with that, and maybe in comparison to some of the other advertising media that's out there. Hayley, you've talked about radio advertising and traditional print advertising and maybe some of the others, but could you give me some of the comparisons and perhaps where you see the advantages over television advertising as opposed to other mediums?
Yeah, I mean, I think for radio especially, I don't advertise at all on radio anymore. Maybe the last time I did was we had an open day, and it was just locally, and even then I'm not sure that even worked, because we had offered a certain competition on the radio, but actually it was more people came, said they'd seen it on the television. So again, if I compare them, I probably wouldn't use radio again. It just doesn't work for us, I don't think, because there's no visual. I think that's the difference with television when it comes to selling an actual product. You know, if we're selling like lifestyle, sort of say an extension or like a new front door, you don't see that on the radio. You see it on the telly, and then you say, oh, I would really like that. So for us, because it's product based and sort of lifestyle, I think we really need to be a visual. It needs to be a visual, something that someone's looking at. So paper wise, also, I mean, when I took over, that's pretty much all they did was advertising papers, and they're quite expensive as well. That's the other thing, that people don't realize, that papers are maybe just as expensive on a scale as television. But again, not many people read papers now. Everything's online. So I think for STV, for us, and the whole television thing is that we could get in front of so many people, and visually they could see, one, the brand, and two, they could see what they were actually looking at. So for us, if you've got something to sell, if it's a product like that, that's where television really works, because you can showcase the things that you've got that are that people are going to want to buy.
Yeah, and Louise, would you tend to agree with that, or do you take a fairly broad approach to your advertising and promotion?
We do take quite a broad approach to it, but I think that because we're so lucky to get, you know, fantastic assets from artists, like video and, you know, big hero shots, or even if it's just the music, you know, that brings with someone. And so I think that's really, really powerful. I think we have to have a blend, because our marketing varies from event to event, because, you know, we could be selling, you know, Magic Mike Live or Andre Rieu, or, you know, so it's such a broad demographic. But I think that seeing it, you know, things like Cirque du Soleil, for example, which we never actually got to have because of lockdown, but, you know, people didn't know what that maybe looked like because it was a new type of show. So if you can get that out there on adverts, it makes such a difference for them to visualize it.
Yeah. And Danielle, I mean, clearly other platforms are available online via social media, print, etc., etc. Do you see much competition against television advertising, or do you still see it as the pinnacle of advertising platforms?
Yeah, I think it's a really important point Louise makes. You know, a lot of our members and clients will have a media mix, you know, whether that's doing a bit of social, whether it's doing some localized promotion like Hayley mentioned on radio, whether it's those kind of bigger pieces. I think the interesting part is, you know, what role TV plays in that. And I could go into all kinds of detail, but ThinkBox, or the TV marketing body, have done a lot of research on this, and actually TV makes those other mediums work so much harder. So if you're on TV with those other platforms will ultimately perform better. And I think sometimes that can be frustrating for a marketeer, because even just listening to Hayley, you know, when you do other platforms, people can say, oh, how did you hear about us? Oh yeah, we saw it on TV. Because TV is so trusted, you know, we are Ofcom regulated. Anything that goes on air has to be fully complied. It has to be truthful, honest, legal. People understand that a TV message holds so much more weight. And I think that sort of lean back experience, you know, you're in a relaxed state, you're watching your favorite show, the halo effect. Most people, you know, are watching TV if they live at home with a family group or a partner. You know, if that's your kind of domestic setting, you're having a chat about what you see in TV, and almost that halo effect of the brand and the impact and the sales and those decision-making processes, you know, that people make as a family or a household, you know, all come into play in the same way that you don't get with other mediums, because they tend to be a more one-on-one interaction. So I think there's definitely a role. We work with loads of other media companies, you know, right across the board. I think that's probably another common misconception, you know, that we never speak to each other, and it's like, you know, we're very separate, but we speak to lots of different media companies. You know, we work, we're active members in the Advertising Association that brings lots of different sectors together, really with that ultimate aim of making everything as effective as it can be for clients, you know, because we want these things to work. But yeah, I think a media mix and putting TV at the heart of that. I think that the other point on that is the creative. And again, I think Louise touched on that, you know, with music and visuals and images, and Hayley talking about our creative journey. That's a huge part. Our creative team at STV make between sort of 300 and 400 ads a year. And we work with both in-house, our creative team, and also we'll work with sort of multimedia producers and other companies through our account team. But actually getting that message correct, or getting it to target your audience, is really crucial. And our team will actually make, you know, media for other platforms. So whether it's, you know, maybe you're doing a bit of radio, we'll make a radio ad. We've even done things like making advertising at the back of bus tickets to go along with a TV campaign. So we're very open to those types of conversations. It's not sort of, you know, TV all the way. You know, we will collaborate and make sure that you've got that robust campaign, because that's hugely important.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Just to let everyone know who's listening, if you want to ask questions, please feel free to do so now. This is the scheduled part of the Q&A, but I've got lots more to ask of our guests. So if you are quite happy to just sit and listen, that's absolutely fine. We're more than covered. But if you do have any questions that you'd like to pose to any of our panelists, please do so. Danielle, I just want to come back on a couple of points that you made there, because, you know, when we have entrepreneurs and business founders through any of our accelerator programs at Elevator, ultimately promotion is something that will need to be done at some point. And we cover off some of the details, particularly touch points, because what we find now is customers, before they buy, will need many, many more touch points before they have the confidence or the no need now to go and buy that particular point. So it's great to hear that you have not just one channel, but you've got multiple channels open. And then also the power of persuasion. You know, you talk about your creative teams that work along with the companies in order to produce the ideal ad, allows that company to sell their product or whatever their offer is to that target audience. Hayley, you mentioned that the evolution of your advertising from the first one to where you're at now has evolved quite considerably. You tell us a little bit about that journey of your advertising?
Yeah, so the first advert, again, was just more of a sort of brand, getting the name out there and sort of showing some products. And when I look at that advert compared to the one that we've just done now, we've had a few. We actually did one which was a live shoot. It was actually here in some of the conservatories. I had a lot of family members, other people that worked here, all participated in this one. And it was really successful, actually. I have to say that there was one conservatory that we have built here, and every person that came in would say, oh, we saw it on the television. So the new one that we're just about to go on air, I think it's the 16th of April. Again, currently just now I'm working with a really great guy at Proud Motion, and I have to say that his work is fantastic, and anything you want he can do for you. And I had given him a brief outline of what I had as a vision for this advert, and he just came back to me and it was exactly what I wanted. In fact, I don't even think I made any edits in this one, and that's the first time ever. But yeah, it's evolved a lot. It's become, I think now I've got it to where it needs to be so that the brand it feels like I wanted it to feel, which was more directed at sort of family and come away from the sort of stigma that was attached to double glazing and home improvements, especially on television adverts. But yeah, it just shows you how you can evolve in that sense of if you get the right creative. I think that's the biggest part. I think the creative needs to be right, and like I say, David at Proud Motion, amazing, fantastic work, and yeah, he really is. He's a really great guy, actually.
That's great to hear. We do have a question in from the audience. So it's from Margaret. Margaret asks the question: how long before the ads air do you recommend getting in touch to plan everything in? So Danielle, come to you with that particular question.
Yeah, of course. So we can work really quickly. So we can get ads on air within a very short space of time, depending on what it is you want to do. So we have had brands that have come to us on a Tuesday and want to be on air for a Saturday. Yep, we can do it. We can turn things around quickly. What I would say, if it's your first time in TV, you don't want to rush it. And I think to Hayley's point about that creative process, you want to give yourself time, and particularly for a lot of entrepreneurs, owners, managers, it's maybe not the only thing you're doing at that time. You know, you're juggling lots of things as well as your marketing, and actually giving yourself a bit of space to stop and think, what is the core message? And that's probably the hardest part of the process. And I agree completely what Hayley said about getting the creative right, but actually editing yourself can be quite hard because you know your business inside out, you're so passionate about it, and you want to tell people as much as you can. But actually with a TV ad, you know, pick one really powerful thing and repeat it 2 or 3 times, because ultimately the maximum number of messages people remember is 3. You know, if you've got a 30-second ad, if there's one that's really important, make sure you kind of reiterate that. So I guess where I'm going to answer Margaret's question is, we probably recommend giving yourself a minimum of sort of maybe 6 weeks if it's your first time on. That gives you time to work with the creative teams, whether it's our in-house or like Proud Motion. We do loads of work with David at Proud Motion, who's fantastic, works with a lot of our clients. We have a very close relationship with him. So whether it's with one of our own team or with the likes of our partners that we work with, give yourself enough time to be confident in making those decisions. We don't want anyone to feel rushed, because, you know, it is an investment. It's an investment in your future growth. So we want it to be right. So 6 weeks probably, and then we recommend about 4 weeks on the media side. And that allows us to then plan in your schedule. So when you go on air, what you'll get is a full schedule breakdown that shows where all your spots are going out. So, you know, you're in Coronation Street at 19:58, you're in the STV News at, you know, at 1600, 1800, you know, whatever it might be. So you have all that in advance. So that allows us to make sure that the schedule is as strong as it possibly can be. However, you know, things happen, you know, and things happen quickly. And for people who have an advert or who want to change strategy or do something very last minute, Hayley might say, do you know what, I want to do a sale in Edinburgh next week. And Jen, her account manager, will be able to work with her to say, right, okay, when do you need to be on? What does it need to look like? So we can be really reactive, but we can also, particularly if you're new, I would give yourself a bit of time just to take some of that, give your space to make decisions ultimately. So anywhere from a week to 6 weeks, I would say, Andy.
Great. And it sounds, I mean, you know, very positive there in terms of the relationship. You know, the account managers work very closely with, you know, the advertiser to make sure it's as seamless as possible. Got another question coming in on the chat here, and I'll come to Louise with this particular question. So Louise, a question from Jules. What one piece of advice would you give to someone considering TV advertising for the first time?
I think audience. I think obviously you need to know what audience you're looking to attract, and also production I think is really important. I think we just covered that, but I totally agree. And the other thing that I think is really important is that if you have the right production, you can also utilize it on your own platforms. So our STV ad does the mileage, you know, because you're spending that money, and yes, you know, as soon as the ads go live, you see that spike, but also when you retain that production and you can push that out over, like we do that, we push it out over our social channels. We actually show the adverts in the venue as well. And it's just, you know, people warm to that because they continue to see it. And I think just making sure that your brand is front and center, and there's a bit of a call to action. I mean, we don't like to, you know, push it too hard, but obviously at the end of the day we want people to buy into it and buy tickets. But I think it's really important to make sure that your brand is front and center. But yeah, production for me, it's that whole credibility piece that you said before, Andy. I think that's really important, and if it stands out and looks business, then you know that's what it makes you look like that as well. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, the call to action is always important. You know, what is it you're looking for your audience to do? Danielle, you mentioned about narrowing in on a particular message and just repeating and repeating and repeating. I remember both television and radio advertisements from my childhood that I can still remember today,
Yeah.
you know, even down to the jingles. So I guess the creative is a really important point, making sure that the message is simple, it's clear and memorable, I guess, because ultimately what you're looking to do is, I guess, trigger a change, potentially a purchasing change, so that when someone's in a particular store, they pick up one particular brand over another, or if they see an event advertised, or if they are looking to do home improvements or whatever it might be, that there is something in their mind that triggers the reaction and hopefully a purchasing action going forward. So thanks for that answer there, Louise. One of the other questions, which I think I'll come initially to yourself on then, is in terms of the creative side of things. What kind of costs, and Danielle, this is for you, what kind of cost would an entry-level advert be? Is it possible to utilize the creative on other channels too? So I guess you've touched on this, but maybe just expand a little bit on that, Danielle.
Yeah, so I think creative, it's almost how long is a piece of string. I always say to people, if you want to go to the Bahamas with Leonardo DiCaprio and shoot your ads, that's going to be quite a lot of money, you know, and we've all seen those adverts from, you know, mega brands that you think, oh my gosh, you're talking Super Bowl ad type stuff. So obviously it can go up to millions if you're in that kind of space. For an entry level ad on STV, probably start about £1,800 for your creative. And that tends to be more a kind of motion graphics ad, maybe using existing footage, maybe using animatics. So really sharp type creative. Once you get into doing more of a shoot, that's when it gets a little bit more expensive. So because you've got, unless you're Hayley and you've got lots of family members you can pull in, and to be honest, a lot of people do that, you know. And I think there's been a few STV staff in ads over the years, if you can spot them, you know, account managers helping out clients, which is we absolutely encourage. But once you get into using actors and staff and various things, that's when the cost can go up. So at a shoot, you're probably maybe looking more like round about 4,000 to 5,000, that kind of a budget. But I think Louise makes a fantastic point. You can use that ad and get mileage out of it. So whether it's on your social channels, whether it's using it on your own web channels, and what we recommend a lot of clients do is, you know, make sure when you're on TV, the first thing nowadays you'll see an ad, they're going to go to your website and check it out. So have that recall factor. So, you know, have your advert on your homepage. Once they get to the website, you know, reinforce those messages. So we absolutely recommend that, using it in stores and receptions. We have gone into loads of client receptions and they've got their ads, you know, as part of a look and suite Because there's a kind of credibility that comes from TV. I think we've covered that off as well. But one of the things that we hear a lot is the halo effect on staff. When people see the ad of a company they work for, it kind of makes them stand up a bit taller and a bit smarter, because it's real pride in what you're doing. So yeah, I would say £1,800 your entry level, but there's lots of things we can do as part of the growth fund to support that as well. And I think, other than how much does it even cost in the first instance to get on TV, the second probably most asked question I get is, oh God, how do I even start making an advert? It's probably not something that a lot of us even know where to begin. I think that can be a little bit scary to think, oh gosh, I don't even know who I would speak to, what it would look like, how long it would take. And we try and make that process really, really easy. So we have producers, we have creatives, we can do scripts, we can put you in touch with production companies like David at Proud Motion that we've spoken about. We really are as flexible as we possibly can be on that front as well. And hopefully that's what's kind of coming across in terms of our broader approach. It's really taking the lead from the client, being flexible, and trying to get something that works for that particular business, not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Great. No, that's fantastic. And just to start to finish off the questions, two quick questions, I guess. Let me just make sure I'm covering it all. We don't want to leave any unanswered. So a question in here: can you amend a TV ad whilst we are all working remotely in lockdown?
Yeah. Is that one for me, Andy?
Yes, I would say, Danielle, for you.
Yes is the good answer. And actually, what day was that? What day is this? Wednesday. Last Thursday, my colleague Victoria, who heads up our creative team, had sent round a live stream of a remotely filmed shoot that we're doing right now. So we've done remote shoots, we've done remote amends, a great example of that. And I'm happy to share the case study afterwards. Talking Medicines, who are a brand we worked with last year. They had launched some creative at the start of the year. They're a business who basically, it's an app to make sure that you're tracking all the medicines you're taking and you know when you've taken them, etc. So very pertinent as obviously COVID set in, and we were able to change that commercial within a week or so, remotely update it, get new creative, get a new messaging on it, and get it back on TV. So we've been very fortunate in that sense, that everything operates remotely from the scheduling of the ads right through to the production and delivery.
Great, fantastic. And very final question, and I'll pose this one to Hayley. Hayley, there might be companies out there listening right now who are thinking, should we do this? Is this worth considering? What would be your final thoughts for those that are maybe pondering advertising with STV?
If someone said to me, should I do it? I would say 100% yes, because honestly, the return for us has been massive. But not just that, I go back to the brand awareness and the footfall, being able to put your products in front of people. And it is actually so simple. If you get obviously you get an account manager, and like I say, the production, I've used various people, all recommended by STV, but the process has been so straightforward, and they'll listen to what you want, they give you what you want. And yeah, just if you want to do it and you've got money in a budget that you spend on papers or radio, think about how much you're spending on that and think STV really could benefit your business. So if I was somebody looking to do it, I would say do it. Well, definitely do it.
That's a positive note to finish on, and I see smiling and nodding from Louise and Danielle there as well. So great. Thank you so much indeed. We're now just coming to the end, so just wanted to round up on a few points just by way of a recap. We've heard from our panelists today that television advertising is and can be a very cost-effective way of reaching your audience and helping you to grow and scale your business. We've heard from STV. They are the biggest commercial broadcaster in Scotland. 80% of Scots tune into STV every single month. So a captive audience, and clearly an audience that's motivated to buy. We've also heard about the STV Growth Fund, and that's something that if you're looking to get more information on, STV are able to be contacted directly, as our Elevator, who will be able to help you in that particular journey to be able to utilise the Growth Fund and the commercial support that STV are making available. There is also the £1 million STV Green Fund, and I think we know that the climate crisis is not going to go away. Businesses are going to have to evolve and change, and if there is help and assistance out there to allow you to change and broadcast that message, again, STV are there to help. Of course, you can find out more information about what's available from STV. You can go to their website, which is stvgrowthfund.tv, or you can contact Danielle and her team directly. So it's danielle.kelly@stv.tv. And I'm sure Elevator will make these contact details available. Just by way of closing, a quick reminder that this is the first of 3 of the STV series that we're running in partnership. That's Elevator in partnership with STV. Our second session, we have a date of the 5th of May at 3 p.m. and that is going to focus on building your brand, marketing and media skills. And then our third session in the series will be on the 9th of June at 3 p.m. also, connecting with your customer. So hopefully we'll have you joining in then as we speak to STV and more interesting panelists that will be along. And finally, from Elevator, thank you so much indeed for joining us today. You can find out more about Elevator by visiting our website at elevatoruk.com. We will help and assist your business needs and growth, whether you're looking to start a business or scale a business. We deliver national support with a local approach whilst delivering on your international ambitions. So until next time, good luck and be brave. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.